Okay. Hi, this is Tim Bradner. Welcome to Capitol Views, and welcome today to Representative Jamie Allard, elected to represent Eagle River. And you're new to the legislature, Jamie, but you're certainly not new to public service in the Anchorage area. So anyway, thanks for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate being here.
Uh, just to start out, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and then we can talk a bit about the district.
Sure. I generally start with a little bit of my ethnicity, just to kind of give people a little bit more perspective about me. My father was born and raised in Santiago, Chile. My mother was born and raised in Livorno, Italy, and they both came over a little bit. My father was in his late teens. My mom was probably around 7 or 8 years old, and I was raised and grew up in California, believe it or not. And then when I was 19, I signed up for the military, and I actually ended up deploying into the military on active duty when I was 21. I was an Army sergeant when I got out.
Army sergeant. Well, you
I
are mixed
was.
Chilean and Italy and an Army sergeant. Boy, that explains you. You have a good mixture, and that's kind of what makes you outspoken and plain speaking.
I would like to think so. I'm very direct. The Army doesn't train individuals to be weak, and we say what we mean, and we mean what we say.
Well, we can certainly see that. Uh,
Thank you.
Jamie, how long have you lived in Eagle River?
I moved to Eagle River with my husband. My husband's a special forces operator, Green Beret, and we had been stationed in Vermont, where he was an military science professor at Norwich University. He was in 10 Special Forces Group, and he had trained mountain cold weather individuals. And while we were in Vermont, he was coming towards the end of his career. He had about 4 or 5 years left. And in 2009, we decided we wanted to head to Alaska so that we could possibly, that's where we would end up and stay forever. And that's what we did. So in 2010, we got reassigned to Alaska, moved to Eagle River, and here I am today. So about 13 years ago.
And so, Jamie, when in your Army career, what did you do there? Did you have
Um,
a?
I did. So in the military, it's very interesting. People think if you just go in under one thing, I was 71 Lima, and at the time that was um, secretarial work. And then I was also in transportation. And in the military, you can interview for different positions. So ultimately, I worked at the VIP motor pool, which means I worked with heads of state, diplomats, and we escorted them around. I wore civilian clothes and I carried a gun and I had a lot of fun.
That's an interesting way to meet people. Interesting people.
You could say that. Yeah.
And so, when did you start become interested in municipal issues representing Eagle River? You ran for the assembly. Yeah.
I did. And so part of my career background was I used to work for the US State Department at George C. Marshall Center for Security Studies in Europe. And I used to work for the Department of Defense. And at the time, Senator Reinbold had approached me, and I worked for the Department of Army. And they said in order for me to run for office, that I would have to resign from my federal service. That was a conversation that was a long one with my husband because I was giving up my retirement and things that I was working towards. And I ran in 2018 for a House seat, hers, that she formerly had held, and I lost. And I went to work for Governor Dunleavy at the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs. It was a great fit, and I couldn't sit by, and I was approached to say, you need to get on the Anchorage Assembly. We need your voice. And I said, okay, here we go. And that's what I did.
So, what is it like to represent Eagle River? Eagle River sort of wants to be its own little unit out there, and what is it like to represent them in a broader community? That must have been interesting.
Oh, I got to tell you. So the Assembly District, District 2, is what we were called, Chigiak Eagle River, and now we're J-Bear. You're working with 50,000 people, about 40, between 48 and 50,000 people. It was wonderful. Loved every minute of it. It was a realization that I couldn't go into Walmart after things got a little bit lively on the Assembly to be, you know, I don't know, to put it lightly. I couldn't go anywhere without being stopped and asked, what are we going to do to fix this? Nowhere. I couldn't even go into Anchorage without people asking me, how can we help you? How can we do and make changes? So I love Eagle River. I love Chugiak. It's an amazing place and community, and it's the longest place I've ever lived in my whole life. And I'm at home. I'm at home. I could go into any store, sit down, and be surrounded by friends. It's amazing.
That's really what's wonderful about Alaska, being in a small
Mhm.
community. And you live
Yes,
in a beautiful district anyway, with the park out there and a mixture of residential, tourism, visitor, recreation opportunities.
we do. And one of the things that you had said, what got me involved, a friend of mine had asked me to go to Governor Dunleavy at the time he was Senator Dunleavy, to his fundraiser in Eagle River in 2000 and May of 2018, I think that was. And we went, and he was the first public official, I guess elected official, that I ever shook hands with, said hi to, went to a fundraiser, and actually donated to. So it was an interesting turn of events, and I realized how much our Alaskans needed help. So it was a big turning point for me too. And I've had a lot of supporters tell me that when I ran and I was on the assembly or I ran for House, that was the first time they ever donated to anybody or met an elected official too. So it's a good feeling to get involved.
Well, Jamie, you're co-chair of the community in the, I'm sorry, education committee in the House, and you have a co-chair. How do you guys handle that? It's unusual to have two co-chairs, and you pass the gavel back and forth, or how does it work?
Yeah, it is a little bit unusual. I would prefer to have just one chair to it, but we do work as a team. And Representative Ruffridge chairs one week. He brings his bills and anything he sees fit to be in front of the committee. And then the next week, I chair and I do what I need to do. And we don't step on each other's toes. We do what we each have to do and we drive on. So it's working out.
Is there a way you guys divide it up? Are there certain categories of bills you're interested in certain areas he's interested in, or is it just kind of whatever's in the mix for that week?
Well, when the bills come down to our committee, we kind of talk about who's going to pick up what. But I don't step on his toes, and he doesn't with me. It's just a matter of I want to listen to these bills during my committee, and I said okay, and then he does the same, and he's like okay, and I go I'm going to have public testimony. He's like all right, and we sign off on each other's agendas, and we move on. And we don't agree on everything, but we are here, and we need to get the job done. And if we fight like cats and dogs, it's not going to work.
Well, that sounds like a good way to kind of divide the
Yeah,
responsibilities. Well, anyway, thank you very much, Representative Allard, for joining us. It's been interesting,
thank you,
and good luck to you for the rest of
thank
the
you.
remaining